For more on the fast-moving developments, let's bring in Alina Polyakova. She's the President and CEO at the Center for European Policy Analysis. Joins us live now from Washington, D.C. Alina, thank you so much for being with us. So obviously you watched the president's speech to Congress last night. You heard him read that letter from President Zelensky, essentially saying that Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table, that they are basically ready, more or less, to make some kind of deal. They're ready to work with the United States. Obviously, in that Oval Office meeting we saw last Friday, President Trump pointed out to Zelensky that he doesn't hold the cards, right? That he doesn't have that much leverage. Once the minerals deal is signed, once the two leaders come together and signed that minerals deal, does Zelensky have any leverage left at all? He didn't have much leverage to begin with, but after that deal is signed, what leverage does he have after that?
I think that's the million-dollar question, to be honest with you. And, to be clear, Ukraine has been ready to negotiate. They tried to negotiate with the Russians. Zelensky tried to have a direct line with Putin before the full-scale invasion happened. And the Russians never came to the negotiating table in good faith, which, of course, is important. And there's no indication that they're doing so now. So what we have seen is a policy of pressure from the U.S. administration on Ukraine to give up rights to its mineral deposits, very rich mineral deposits. But what are the asks we have of the Russian side? I haven't heard the White House ask the Russians to give up anything. I haven't heard for any compromises. So I think that's the big question. What are we asking the Russians to compromise on? The Ukrainians are obviously ready. They want to stop this war. They didn't start it. So what are we asking for from the Russians?
Alina, put into perspective for us the optics and the real-life consequences of 24 hours after withholding or pausing military aid, announcing that intelligence sharing, which one could argue is even more crucial for saving Ukrainian lives and giving them some more intelligence as to where Russian assets may be. Once that has now been at least temporarily frozen, what message does that send both Ukrainians and to Russia and Vladimir Putin?
I think it's a very unfortunate set of actions that this administration has taken. Of course, the United States has provided the mass amount of military assistance to Ukraine. Europe has actually provided more as a whole in terms of support for Ukraine when you factor in economic assistance. But there is no one that can fill the gap immediately to what the U.S. will leave behind by stopping military supplies to Ukraine. We understand that Ukrainians have stockpiled supplies, so it's not that they will lose complete capability to defend themselves immediately, but most experts anticipate that over the next several months, by the summer, unless this freeze is lifted, they will run short on critical air defense interceptor missiles for the Patriot systems that only the U.S. has and can provide. So it's a very, very critical and urgent situation. And the intelligence sharing, I think, is another hit. And Ukrainians, to be clear, were very enthusiastic about President Trump. That he would bring a different kind of leadership than we saw with the Biden administration, which they interpreted as too slow and too incremental. And I think now what they're seeing is that President Trump is really pressuring Ukraine to probably accept a deal of capitulation that will favor the Russian side. And that will leave the United States, I think, deeply, deeply vulnerable. Will be seen as unreliable by many of our allies. We already are being seen as unreliable, unfortunately, by many allies across the world. And it will only empower China to do much more, much faster in terms of its military ambitions on Taiwan.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, you bring up what this does to Russia in terms of emboldening Russia and also emboldening China as well. Up until last week, Zelensky had held firm that Ukraine would only agree to peace if its security was guaranteed. That is what Zelensky was saying. Otherwise, that it was going to fight on. The fact that you now have this about face, I mean, obviously that benefits Vladimir Putin enormously. What incentive does Vladimir Putin now have to come to the negotiating table in good faith? I mean, why not just sort of strengthen his position on the battlefield first and then come to the negotiating table a lot later once his position has been strengthened?
That is exactly what the Russians are doing. We've seen a massive increase in Russian attacks on Ukraine's civilian infrastructure. And we have also stopped support for Ukraine's civilian energy infrastructure, the energy grid the Russians have been attacking for 3 years on the civilian side. We've also stopped that, to be clear. So the Russians are doing that. They're doing exactly what you said. They're strengthening their position. They see a huge historic opportunity here to rewrite the security order, not just for Ukraine, but for all of Europe. Because for the Russian side, the big strategic objective has never changed. It's not about some hundreds kilometers or miles of territory that they want to occupy forever from Ukraine. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for decision-making power over Ukraine and over Europe. And as a result, to be at the table with the United States, maybe with China, in terms of carving up the world. Those kinds of pacts, we know from history, have only led to human suffering and oppression for decades and decades. And it's not stable. These kinds of regimes don't tend to be stable. So I think, to my mind, these are the big questions we need to be thinking about. And I see no incentive for the Kremlin to stop pushing militarily until they see what else the White House might be able to give them. You know, we've heard some reporting as well that the White House is actively considering removing some economic sanctions, which of course the Kremlin has wanted for a long time. So we are taking all kinds of steps to give up our own cards, put ourselves in a much weaker negotiating positions. And it's not clear to me why we're doing that before we know what the Russians will be giving up on their end.
Right, Alina Polyakova, live for us. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Alina.
Thank you.